My name is Chinny. I'm 22 years old and I'm a Christian YouTuber. My whole journey through depression and anxiety and all that stuff started when I was 19. You wouldn't be able to tell from the outside looking in. You would think I was perfectly fine. No one would believe me if I told them that I was depressed, that I wasn't eating. I had anxiety attacks all the time. Through the whole process, I kept everything to myself. And honestly, that was one of the worst decisions I could have made, and probably is why it took so long for me to come out of it. It was a weird thing kind of going into it because there was nothing specific that like kick-started it. It just kind of hit me out of nowhere. I would realize that I wouldn't want to leave my room. I would be by myself all the time. I would wake up really late. I wouldn't eat. I would like forget about food completely until I was feeling sick and I knew that I had to get something in my body. So when I realized that I was at a point where this is probably depression, was just looking online, trying to find out what's wrong with me, asking questions, and I realized that I'm depressed, and it's something that I never thought I would experience, because you hear about it but you don't take it seriously until it happens to you. And growing up in an African home, depression is like you're just sad. So that's basically what you hear a lot of. So I didn't get a chance to take it seriously. And I remember feeling like I had no right to be depressed. I had no right to experience what I was experiencing. Like I wanted to be fine, so much so that I wouldn't talk to people. So through the whole process, I kept everything to myself. And honestly, that was one of the worst decisions I could have made, and probably is why it took so long for me to come out of it, because I didn't talk to people. I was living with my uncle, and I felt like if I told him what was going on, he wouldn't understand, or he would judge me, or he would think that I was weak. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to have it all together. I felt like I'm a woman, I'm growing up, I should be fine. It put me in a position where I alienated myself from everyone around me. I didn't talk to friends. I barely spoke to family. People would ask me if I was okay, and I would be like, yeah, I'm fine, you know, everything's okay. And so in order to divert the attention from myself, I started acting like I was okay. Like you wouldn't be able to tell from the outside looking in. You would think I was perfectly fine. No one would believe me if I told them that I was depressed, that I wasn't eating. I had anxiety attacks all the time. And I think anxiety is what took the depression to a level where it was like I couldn't bear it anymore. Like I wouldn't be able to leave my house. I would step outside and it's like I couldn't breathe. Like everything was closing up around me and I was like sinking. And that's a feeling that you don't really know how to explain to people. It got worse when I started contemplating suicide. I didn't want to be alive anymore. I felt like I would probably be doing the people around me a favor if I just ceased to exist. And I remember telling a friend once, someone that I thought I could trust, and he said to me, well, that's just selfish because they're gonna forget about you. I mean, if you kill yourself, your parents will cry and everyone will be in pain, but like in a year, they'll be fine. And that didn't help at all. I don't know if he thought that was gonna encourage me to not do it, but it didn't work. And I attempted suicide. I tried a couple times. It didn't work for whatever reason. I think that was just God preserving my life, but nothing would work. And so I just gave up on that. I said, okay, if I'm going to live this life, I'm going to have to just suck it up and be okay. And I kept pretending and acting like everything was fine. I remember I took a psychology class one semester in college, and for my final paper, I had to write about depression. So it felt like I was telling my own story. And I remember I didn't do any research. I didn't want to write the paper at all, but then I realized that I can't get bad grades. So I wrote the paper like the night before it was due. I turned it in. I remember a week later, my professor emailed me and he was like, this is one of the best papers I've ever seen on depression. I was like, because I'm experiencing it. That's why it's so good. But I think things started to shift when I got busy. I started volunteering for an organization that kept me very, very busy. We had 12-hour days. Like, it was crazy. Always working. And so I didn't have time to focus on the problem anymore, but it was still there. A lot of times people who go through depression will tell you that finding things to do makes them take their mind off of it, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. So during this time, I got saved. I was active in church. I was active in this organization. I had things around me. And so I thought to myself, I'm free, I'm good, I'm fine. I'm not dealing with this anymore. But anytime I would have a quiet season for like a week, or I wouldn't be as busy, or if I had a weekend to myself where people weren't around me, it would start all over again. So I spoke to someone one day, and I kind of poured out my heart to her and told her everything that was going through, and she asked me how it was possible that I could go through all of this for so long without telling anybody, and how it was possible that no one around me could even tell. And I told her, well, because I didn't want to be seen as weak, and I also didn't want to be in a position where I needed people, and I didn't want people to downplay what I was going through. I didn't want anyone telling me that I was just sad. I didn't want anyone telling me that I was just having a bad day or whatever the case may be. And I also didn't really want advice. I wanted someone to listen to me. So getting closer to God, getting closer to friends, having people around me that I allowed myself to trust started to shift things. Because I went through, when it was really bad, I wouldn't talk to people and I didn't trust anyone. And so I realized that I don't want this to be my life. If I'm going to be alive, if I'm not going to take my own life, if I'm going to live through this, I need to be able to function. I would see my friends live life to the fullest. They would go out and enjoy themselves, and I would be with them, and I'm just looking at them. I'm not present, I'm not there. I wanted to be like them. I imagined what my life was going to be like and what I thought life was like when I was younger. And I said to myself, this is not matching up. So whatever I need to do, I have to snap out of this. And I kind of became my own superhero in a sense, where I was like, I have to make this decision to come out of it. I can't wait for anyone to just notice it and save me. I need to be able to do this myself. So I gave myself like a guideline for how to get out of this. I told myself, you're going to talk to people, you're going to tell them what's wrong. And even if they don't understand, you're going to get it off your chest. You're not going to sit by yourself all the time, because I'm introverted, so I'm naturally prone to being alone. But I told myself, you're not going to sit alone. You're not going to spend a week in your bed without leaving. You're going to eat. You're going to actually engage in normal everyday conversation. You're going to exercise. So I started doing all of that. The thing that helped me the most was the talking, getting it out, and understanding that I didn't have to have all the answers. Because when I started to talk to some people, I felt like I couldn't pinpoint exactly what started depression, so it didn't make sense trying to get it out. But I told myself that it was okay that I didn't have all the answers, or that I didn't know how to speak so eloquently. I didn't know how to articulate everything. I would just talk. And the more I talked, the smaller the problem got. It was like I was shining light on the issue. And the more I shone light on it, it got smaller and smaller until I could pretty much crush it. Every now and again, depression will come back. Every now and again, it feels like it's creeping up on me. But because I gave myself those strict rules of you need to talk to someone, it starts to get off me. God has been a big part of that as well. But I just put my foot down in my own life. For anyone who's going through depression, for anyone who feels like they can't talk to people, I want to encourage you and advise you that it's not always going to work the way you want it to work when you're communicating with other people. People aren't going to always respond the way you expect them to respond, but if you keep it to yourself, you're hurting yourself. And there's so much more about life that you can enjoy. And depression is crippling. It'll force you into a box and make you live in such a compact way that limits you in a lot of ways. So even if the people around you don't have all the answers, talk to them regardless. Get it off your chest. Even if you feel like you can't trust those, that's okay. Find people that you can trust. Find a safe place. Find those people that you know that if you tell them everything, they may not be able to solve the problem for you, but they'll understand. Build new friends if you need to. Take your life so seriously that you're not willing to compromise on anything disrupting your life being lived to the fullest. And again, for those who are going through depression, be careful not to get comfortable in it, because depression, as much as it sucks and it hurts, it can be very comfortable. You're used to it, and so it feels like you don't understand life outside of it. Don't always try to solve the problem, because sometimes they don't need you to solve it. They just want to talk to you. They just want someone that's going to understand. And even if you are in a position to solve it, before you try and solve it, listen to it. Understand first. Don't downplay what they're going through, because no one can experience it like the person who's actually experiencing it. And it may not seem like a big deal to you, but it's huge to them. And it's at a point where they look at life through the lens of depression. They look at life through the lens of anxiety, and nothing makes sense outside of it. And even if you feel like you are trying to encourage them and they're not coming out of it, don't stop. Because I know that one thing that helped me was having people around me that didn't give up on me. They didn't stop even when it felt like I was going back and forth. So, like I said, do whatever you need to do. Set whatever boundaries you need to set. Create whatever lifestyle you have to create to make sure that you're not allowing this to rule your life. Because now that I'm not in depression and I look at life, things don't always go well. Things aren't always perfect, but I can't imagine not being alive. I can't imagine not being here. There's so much more that you could experience in this life, and it would ruin everything if you allowed it to stop you. Going through depression and all that made me get to a point where I told myself, you have to encourage people. I have to, if I have anyone around me that goes through depression, I have to talk to them. So I use YouTube, I use social media, I use whatever means necessary to make sure that I'm reaching out to those around me that are going through it and helping them, because I've been there. I've been hurt by this, I've been broken by it, but I don't want other people to experience it as well. So I make sure that I am encouraging them, I'm pouring into them. I'm just being the light in whatever way that I can be. And also understanding that I can't solve everyone's problems, but I can definitely listen to them.